Mrs. Myrtle P. Pape, Mrs. Helen Pearson, Mrs. Virginia Deere, Miss Minnie Lee Phillips, Mrs. Inez Stanley, added by referendum vote. Chairman on nominations, Miss Alice Martin, Miss Marie Jones, Miss Charlotte Sack. Other names were suggested, but as it was not possible to obtain their consent at this time, the suggestion was made they be nominated from the floor. Respectfully submitted, Kay Hopper, Chairman Committee on Nomination. Charlotte Sachs, Acting Secretary.
Would you read the last name you read on directors? I didn't have, that was the one they called about afterwards, wasn't it?
Miss Inez Stanley.
Stanley?
Stanley.
And she's occupational health, isn't she?
Administrator.
Administrator.
Former president of Grady Alumni.
And I believe we have, on the ballot, we have, three people that cannot be there. They are not valid in that they are members of the committee. For directors, Mrs. Genevieve Jones, Mrs. Myrtle B. Pate, and Mrs. Charlotte Sachs. So we have two, Mrs. Genevieve Jones and Mrs. Myrtle B. Pate, for directors whose names cannot be added as they are members of the committee, as well as chairman on nomination, Mrs. Charlotte Sachs.
Is there anything, any conflict in the bylaws that would
discussed that
prohibit
at the
that?
meeting.
Oh, that's according to the Georgia bylaws, and the same thing came up from Ms. Mahaffey when she was chairman, and they let the names be submitted from the floor. In the bylaws, it stated on there that they shall resign from the committee. Look in your state bylaws and you'll find it, because it came up before and the letters were written to Ms. Mahaffey.
And Ms. Zerks.
Look on nominating committee in your state bylaws.
I wasn't on the committee.
Last year, you recall, Ms. Zerks, a letter was written to you about it, you know, asking you whether you preferred going on the ballot or resigning
Well,
from the
yes,
committee.
conflict with bylaws, that's what we
term had
need.
not expired.
A letter was written to Ms. Ma.
Would expire, and it was up for re-election, so that was perfectly all right. I had a right to consent if I wanted to,
Yeah,
because it was for different office.
under nominations, when it states under there shall resign from committee.
Well, let's see if we can.
I didn't know that somebody, we nominated from the floor, Miss Mahaffey.
Yes.
You remember we did last year, we
Yes, Miss
nominated her
Mahaffey,
from
yes.
the floor. She was on the committee.
Well, I know, they may do that if they want to, but I don't believe there's any conflict. And I don't think Robert Rules of Order
Me a
says.
nomination submitted as a suggested candidate for the ballot of this association, which is the state. With the permission of that member, said member shall resign from the committee. That means the state.
Well, we are always told that we conform to the state on their
If you don't do
bylaws.
anything in conflict with the state, that's what we
We hear constantly about that.
And
that letter
you
was
can't
written to
remove
them.
state bylaws from private duty section.
You're not bound by the state
And we
bylaws,
didn't-
so.
That,
Rude.
courtesy member, yes, rules from the chairman.
Only point I'm bringing out is that this is the state. It's talking about the state nominating committee. Now, if you want your bylaws, now your bylaws do not conform completely with this. If that's what you're gonna want, then you have to,
Rewrite the whole
you'd
thing.
have to revise your whole fifth district bylaws all the way through.
What was our bylaws?
That's what they've been going by previously with us, and we were just borrowing suit. So that's
Well, now, I'm just
Talking to you.
I'm just looking now, and as a parliamentarian,
We
it's
have
nothing
always-
in your own.
always
There's
been
no,
told that
there's
we
no
operated
conflict
under
in our
law.
bylaws is what's my understanding.
No, Ms. Evans.
Well, it seems
Oh.
like one time we go by one way and the next
That's
time we
right.
go by
Well,
another
we are
way.
bound by the district bylaws. Am I right,
Gotta get
Madam
them
Parliamentary?
Let me say this just a minute. You are bound first by your national organization.
Yeah.
You are bound second by your state, and then your district comes in. Well, this 5th district bylaws is not gonna be written exactly as the 4th district bylaws are written,
Right.
you see? And certainly not as the 1st district bylaws are written, because there's certain things that you want. Now, you cannot change policy, or if the national says dues are so much, then you come down with it. There's certain things that you have to do, but if you want to change the workings of a committee, you see, not something that comes nationally down, then this district has the right to write their bylaws the way they see, and here again, if it's been approved by state, and it goes right on up the line with their approval. And if they have approved this, coming on down, now then that's where you are. And the only thing the parliamentarian can do is pick this up and look at it, and go from there.
Because the state bylaws was concerning the nomination committee of the
Of the
state,
state.
not of each district.
No,
They
of
can
the
tell each
state.
district what their nomination.
Well, we've been told anyhow, and we did it, last time, 2 people, Ms. Mahaffey, and the letter was written to her, and she was chairman of the nominating committee, and then she was selected from the floor.
And of course, when you go back to this,
Oh.
there's nothing in this that says they can't do it, because he even puts a little note in here that that'd be a good way for people to not ever have a certain person as an officer, because they'd be sure they got on the nominating committee.
And that's in your, would you mind reading that?
It's in there, it's in the state, and we've been told so continuously that we have to operate under the state bylaws ever since I've been
No,
in
you
that
don't,
office.
well, the state bylaws, Carolyn, are not
Our
by
district bylaws.
on the district.
I wish I'd known that too, 4 years ago.
Well, they get them to that.
I'll make some of these.
That's what we need for
Was that business courtesy approval? That was a state thing, that wasn't a district thing.
Private duty.
Was that thing was courtesy approval?
No,
It was
now
a
this-
state thing, it was not a district thing, so then this board had the right to approve of this.
Here in your own bylaws, you give these, this is what.
So you see.
While I'm talking.
Kinda
this is
mixed
what
up
I'm
my
having.
thing.
If you all just give these sections in here, you specify something, and then you turn these sections loose to do what they wanna do.
Then do it
Just cut
anyhow.
loose and pass it
Don't even
through.
send us a letter from 'em. We get out a trash can sometime. One of them had been sent out to 900 of them. We got somebody else's trash can.
Now
Without
that,
getting a letter
then
about it.
you can do whatever
This
you,
ballot can stand.
I would not, if I am advising you as president, not to say that these are not, legal nominees, whoever these people were that you said, according to these 5th district bylaws.
Who was the
I'm
third
sorry,
one
we're
on the
gonna stick
nominating
with 'em.
committee?
But let's not.
Alice Martin, Charlotte
Mrs.
Sack.
Charlotte Sack.
And who was the other one? Wasn't it three?
There were 3, Alice Martin, Marie Jones, and
Marie
Charlotte
Jones
Sack.
is one.
Late Martin.
Myrtle Pate is the director and would remain, and Mrs. Genevieve Jones is the director and would remain. There were 3, members of the nominating committee that are on the ballot. And I am advised that this is in order with our bylaws.
These cannot stand.
They will stand. They will stand.
You want your name changed to Jean?
I certainly do.
Well, I'll put that on the ballot for you then.
I don't know where they got that name in the first place. I've never used it in years, but it happens to be my middle name.
All right. Then you have, heard the ballot, the report of the Committee on Nominations, and we have the nominees, or the nominees for the ballot. Is there any discussion, further question about these?
I move that the report be accepted.
All right. Then it is, the report is accepted, and the ballot will be, so designed.
Who seconded that?
It's a report, we don't need a second one.
Motion was made.
Simply that we get a
Approval of the meeting.
We move on to the Registry Committee, which we've had your report already. Public Relations, Mrs. Hanson.
She didn't send one in, but Miss Alford worked with that committee. Maybe she'd like to tell them what to do after the nurses particularly.
Well, we reported the same thing over and over. Have we done anything else since? No. This was during Nurse Week that the papers carried articles about the awards, Nurse of the Year, and the store windows advertised, and we had spot radio and television announcements. We also had program on television. I don't guess we've done anything else since then. But that was good coverage. We didn't have to do it.
She's been sent material about the National Health Week and also on economic security that was released from AMA. But we've had no comments.
No comments. Very good. We'll move to the reports of special committees. The Committee on the Professional Practice, Ms. Ryan.
No.
I've talked with Ms. Ryan. I don't believe she has had a meeting. I've discussed this on a couple of occasions with her. Advisory Committee to the Registry, Ms. Hammett.
Madam President and the board, on 3 occasions, this committee was in a structured meeting session. We attempted to present helpful it's true on 3 occasions, and we attempted to fulfill the responsibilities of the committee to serve in an advisory capacity. We confess our limitations, but our spirits were willing. And we wanted to determine how that we may better serve the people of Metropolitan Rhode Island by providing care. We recognize full nursing care. We feel that we accomplished well-attended meetings, even though they were joint and structured meetings outside of the framework really of the advisory committee, and that considerable progress was made in studying levels of nursing and attempting to bring up to date the functional responsibility of the advisory capacity. And the problems, the recognition that there was a decline in the membership participating in the registry and the restructuring of the registry's role in the community, and the suggestions that we would bring that we continue with a faithful reevaluation of the registry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hammett. You have that report for us, do you? Very good. Careers, Mrs. Lane.
Yes.
I have a report.
The careers had held 2 meetings, aims for the year, assistant plans for Nurse Week, select Nurse of the Year, review recruitment possibilities, accomplishments. assisted with nurse week plans and selected nurse of the year. Problems, selected nurse of the year. Suggestions. I failed to ask the committee for recommendations or suggestions. However, as chairman, I would like to suggest that selections of nurse of the year be discontinued. The innumerable problems involved in the selection made this award most difficult and causes nominees to feel ill at ease. I believe all nominees have been fine nurses who deserve recognition. However, we could do nicely without it. Is it Evangeline Lane?
Is that a recommendation?
No.
That was just a suggestion. No recommendation.
You want a motion on it?
Just a report.
This is a report, of course, we can entertain a motion. She gave no recommendations from the committee.
Right.
And this report will go to the next, careers committee. If the,
Well,
if the
you
members
need to
are
know
wishing.
something, don't you?
I'm not in a position to say Mrs. Lane, as chair, had this suggestion, but her committee did not make this. You, as a board member, can make a motion regarding it if you wish it. Yes.
Well, I move that the nurse of the year be discontinued. Nurse of the year.
I second.
How's it worded? Award?
Award's supposed to be award. The award for the nurse of the year.
Nurse of the Year Award, I believe, is commonly referred to.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I would like to speak in opposition to this motion. I feel it's very timely and appropriate. A district as large as Fifth District, Georgia State Nurses Association should give time and attention to the recognition of outstanding nurses. In any field where there's competition, there is, of course, a sense of feeling ill at ease by some, but I believe we're noble enough, sincere enough, and would manifest sportsmanship sufficient to be able to take the voice and loss of gaining the crown or gaining the place of recognition. I feel it would be a very grave error on our part to discontinue this fine gesture on the part of the district honoring outstanding research. I think it brings recognition to the image of nursing to our community. And it's true, we've selected many, they've been fine, they've been noble, and I feel that they serve our cause well, and they're a credit to the organization.
I just add to it though, Ms. Hammond, is it not so that with the changes in the structure of NNA, there will be provisions for
Right.
this through the academy?
Right.
You see, with the
Will we
appointment of
realize
fellows.
that next year, fellows, I feel that we should have something better to take its place in this period, this transition period. Would we not serve our cause better to move into that, or just sort of cut off? Because
It
whatever
would
you
cut
do-
off $300 off the budget.
Oh, we don't spend that much on that. We don't spend nearly that much on, not $100. The other is for other forms of any type of entertainment. The cups we get at a discount at a fourth all. The refreshments gotten through the hospitals this time was less than it's ever been.
Well,
half
Miss
as much.
Lane must have had some
And-
reason for that, or she wouldn't put
It's
it.
used as recruitment more than anything else, and focusing, that's been one time that we've tried to do our publicity on there and use it as a recruitment effort.
I think, my reason for seconding this, I'd just like to say here, is that over the years that this has been done, I think it has kind of lost momentum and has lost its effectiveness as a recruiting tool, because now it's of interest to a select few. And maybe we're fooling ourselves to think that we're getting a lot of people's attention, and that if we couldn't use this week and use that same enthusiasm and that same, I don't mean do away with something to do that week, but use that same money and enthusiasm in another way, in a new, fresh way, that would get the attention and create the image and do all of these things that we want to do. I think one of the reasons that that this has kind of taken like it has is because approximately the same people are just coming up over and over and over again. It's embarrassing to them to be brought up over and over, and the voting system, there has been over the years, there's been a good much discussion about the procedure for selecting a person, and maybe we could just use all of this same money and enthusiasm in another fresh new way that would get the same amount of or be much more effective. I realize it's a change, but maybe we're ready.
May I relate the three aspects of this? That two of the candidates last year called me and says it's the second time, and they didn't want to decline because they did not wish to be ungrateful, and yet they really had hesitancy about going through the program. And I said, well, I'm in perfect sympathy with you. I've been through it twice.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to offer a suggestion.
And
Instead of having the next year program at Florence Nightingale, find out, honor the student, the outstanding student in each nursing school at this time with a dinner or something that would be outstanding for the girl who has the highest scholastic
in keeping with that, I think it's not just a matter of being good sportsmen. I think you get to feeling like, well, I know they're tired of seeing me come up, you know? And I really do think this was how the ladies that called me and talked with me. Now, Mrs. Lane did discuss this at length with me at the time, and she says, wouldn't this be a good way? We want sections to work. Let each section, and we could get more publicity. And let it be a sort of a section thing. Let each section choose their nurse of the year, or something, and let each section. It was even suggested that they rotate and let this section be responsible for nurse of the year this week, however they choose. Or put it back to involvement of the membership, more involvement of the membership. Now, I've been to several of these, and I would agree that what Marion had said here, that you do see the same persons coming. And Ms. Hammond, I think you would agree to this, that most of the people come each year. But that really, when it comes down to the fact that we have 1,150 members, that we really have more student participation than we have member participation in the actual ceremonies. It's
Well, I think
regrettable.
if we made this a student participation, it would do a lot to boost the morale of the students in the school. And also it would stimulate an interest and give information concerning the professional organization.
Well, I believe it'd be a membership tool if we, as Ms. Dixon suggested, had the outstanding graduate in each school of nursing.
Sure would stimulate a little effort on their part, do a little better in the class.
Well, I'm in sympathy with the student, but I think the school should do a lot for the student. Let's do something, let's find something to help the members.
Well, your criteria in something like this is another major problem. It is at any time that you start giving awards out. But when you say that these are the certain criteria that you're going by, well, on something as indefinite as this, and if you maybe would, as you say, even rotate, maybe each section would have a different way of thinking that they could reach the public best about nursing, or as students, or students. I know in their school getting a lot of attention.
Madam President, all of the schools and all the hospitals were contacted and asked to submit their suggestions for criteria. And do you know they didn't respond?
That shows how
That's
interested
always-
they
Yes.
are.
That shows
They
you
didn't,
the
that's why
interest.
it isn't any more complete than it is because of the fact that the letters did not,
It's lost its. I don't know how you're gonna write that word down.
Lost its zip.
It's lost its.
And this goes to the,
Emphasis.
to the members here. Are we left to the new committee?
Take it to the membership.
since the careers committee is responsible for it,
Well, they expressed, but merely by form of.
Chairman, I call for the question.
We have, the question, and we have the motion, that the Nurse of the Year awards be discontinued. All in favor of this motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
I believe I'm going to need a show of hands. All in favor, please write.
I mean, if we vote against this motion, does it mean we do not have anything, or does it mean we try to strive for
Try to
something
do
else?
something else.
Do something else.
Just do away with that particular way of celebrating.
Oh, that's what
uh,
you mean.
Nurses Week.
Try something new.
Nurse Week will still come.
It
I
would
mean, we
still
could still
come,
have some kind of
certainly
award
not
if
do away
we
with
chose
Nurse
it for
Week.
the district or for the students or something.
But
And
let
who-
the
who sets
committee
up this?
consider doing, approaching
careers
it through the
committee.
students or sections or some other
Oh,
way,
I see.
however they want to.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, do also raise your right hand.
I'm opposed because I think it should be voted on by the General Assembly instead of the board.
It's the board's responsibility, they're the ones who started it.
I don't, it just doesn't seem right, for just this small group to say that something that has been a custom be done away with, that it should be taken to the General Assembly and let them vote it out. Now, that's my personal opinion. That's the reason why I'm not voting for it, because I don't feel that it should be handled, now.
Well, you have,
I may be
what
wrong.
is a nay vote?
And then no vote, we have 3 or 4.
We have 4. The motion is carried.
Is it within our power to do this? I mean, it must be the parliamentary authority. Was it within the board's power to do this?
This is a special committee with no outline whatsoever in here that I know nothing
Special
about.
committee under careers.
And you have nothing under special committee.
It was
whatsoever.
approved and launched by this board, and therefore it can be discontinued by this board.
The Careers Committee can make recommendation to this board for other types of
Yes.
programs.
Oh,
Mrs., you did tell me that all of the suggestions and so forth will be carried to the next
oh, yes,
Careers
yes, a
Committee.
copy of this
Very
will be
good.
forwarded to them, to the new committee.
Insurance Committee, Mrs. Fitzpatrick.
No report from you?
I had a call from Mrs. Fitzpatrick. I don't believe that she's met with the committee. I believe she's met and had many conversations with insurance people. We get an awful lot of calls. You do, I do, and Miss Fitzpatrick. The latest one was someone from John Hancock stating that a number of nurses had inquired about their program, and they wanted what programs we now had so they could compare them, and I did say that I thought it more appropriate for them to present a program to our committee for their handling. So this is where, as a matter of fact, I think she was meeting with an insurance man today.
Well, we don't have a report.
report.
No written report. Report of sections, Mrs. Sitrenbaum has left. She had to leave from EACT. They meet
Supposed to meet tomorrow.
tomorrow.
She had given up a meeting this afternoon at College Park to be here, Miss Citronbaum did.
We should have, had I realized she had to leave, we'd called on her. Administrators, section, Ms. Hale.
We've just had our usual scheduled meetings and, with emphasis on, physician and nurse relationships recently, which we feel we've made some progress in. Our accomplishments where we, got together and kind of rallied for our national candidate. We didn't quite win this time, but, I think we enjoyed the fellowship and everything that we had in getting together like this, and we're gonna win next time.
From NSA section, Miss Mary Woody was a candidate for A&A, and we didn't get on the bandwagon. Maybe my own community and state. Soon enough, Mary was up for director of A&A. General duty, Mrs. Thornton.
We have had all of our meetings, and we think with very good attendance. I think we have made
I
some
think that's
improvement.
wonderful.
I really think so.
It's to be commended. Thank you, Mrs. Thornton. Occupational health, Ms. Lee.
They had a meeting for the election of officers and did not have a quorum, so they have a meeting scheduled Thursday night, 7:30. I found the notice yesterday when I went to the office. 7.
Public health, Mrs. Hasty.
We've had our regular meetings, 6 meetings this year. We had aimed to have meaningful programs each meeting. I believe we accomplished that. And to complete the revision of the rules this year, which we are just about to finish up now. And we've had very good attendance.
And private duty, Mrs. Zerk.
The annual report of the 5th District Private Duty Section, meetings held, 3 regular meetings with quorum. We met several other times and didn't have it. 2 call meetings, 1 meeting, 1 open meeting. This was held July the 8th, 1966 at the Academy of Medicine. Invitation was sent to hospital administrators, nursing service administrators, Executive Board of 5th District Registry Committee, Executive Secretary of 5th District State Private Duty Section Chairman, and the parliamentarians of GSNA and 5th District. The invitation was to discuss problems relating to private duty nursing and better patient care. Approximately 80 attended. Very few of the invited guests attended. And I put down names for 1966 and 67. 1, to strive for better cooperation and communication. 2, educational programs and workshops. Accomplishment. 2 private duty nurses from this district were delegates to the ANA convention in June. 10 members of this section attended the Southeastern Surgical Congress Nurses Program here in Atlanta last March. Raise in private duty nurses' fees from $20 to $25 for 8-hour shift. Although a majority of the members of the 5th District Board would not give courtesy endorsement to the private duty nurse section raise in fee. This raise that was voted upon by the private duty nurses was accomplished in accordance with ANA and private duty section GSNA's procedures as set forth in the Economic Guide for State Private Duty Nurses sections, prepared by committees and staff of the ANA Private Duty section and assisted by the staff ANA Economic Security Unit. Fourth, a newsletter was sent out in December 1965. Problems: 1. Poor attendance. 2. Lack of communication and misunderstanding among members of all sections within the district relative to matters concerning the operation of the district business. 3. Poor cooperation with fellow members of the district as to the rights of the registered nurse in private duty practice. Suggestion that a liaison committee be established between the hospital council, NSA directors, and the private duty nurses section. And I put in parentheses, Mr. Thrasher, president of the Georgia Hospital Council, has offered this suggestion to the nurses at our meeting July the 8th, 1966 at the Academy of Medicine. And at this time, since the copy of the telegram and the copy of the letter received from ANA to Ms. Broshott on the levels of nursing have already been read, I'd like to move that this board give courtesy endorsement to our raising fees. I move that this executive board give the private duty section 5th District GSNA a courtesy endorsement for the raise in fees from $20 to $25 per 8-hour shift. It was effective as of June the 10th, 1966.
I second the motion.
You've heard the motion. Is there a discussion?
What I'd like to say by discussion is that, as you see from the letter from ANA on the levels of nursing, they have not got the material ready yet to send to us. They said it would be sent out in the fall. And the first we had been given any information about it was at the ANA convention when it was discussed on the floor very briefly. And they had just received, evidently a few states had been given it for trial to work on. But the others that got up and said, we have received this, we will take it home and study it and do what we can about it. And Georgia was not given one at all then, and the chairman went up and requested that we get something on it. So after our committee was appointed and Ms. Broshott chairman, she wrote to ANA for the information and was given the letter that was brought this afternoon was sent saying that the material would be ready sometime in the fall. And that they would send it as soon as we can have it.
If I don't remember exactly the discussion that went on, we voted on this before, but as well as I remembered, it seems that the people who spoke against endorsing this was because of the blanket increase and that we were interested in some differentiation being made, and this seems to be what's brought out in this letter from ANA. It seems that it still stands that, as was pointed out then, some of these people do a job which probably they should receive $30 for, and others less than the 25. And are we still in the same position that we don't want to endorse this blanket increase?
This came out in September of '65. Apparently, I've had these for some while. I've had copies of these. And back in '64, when the advisory committee was meeting, Ms. Hammett, the journals were full of articles about this, about And, Ms. Earps, if you will recall that the
Well, I know
private duty.
something's been said about it, and I read something about it, but the guidelines have not been prepared and sent to them yet.
And the section has not been able to go forward with any real program in that.
Well, I think it would be interesting maybe and I'd like to speak to this, I think it would be interesting for this board to know that this is being done in the community at some of the private registries, that already levels have been established, since June 10th, because the issue was forced. My question is, has anything changed? And I was asking the parliamentarian, this same motion has come to the board before. And, the motion was lost by this board. And we have, from the May 9th board meeting, a motion was made from the private duty section, Ms. Earps reporting that a special call meeting on May 6, 1966, 94 present, brought this recommendation to the board that the private duty fees be increased from $20 to $25 for an 8-hour shift, and that other fees such as dual and hourly nursing be worked out in proportion to the proposed vote to be effective June 19, 1966. A motion was made to adopt the above recommendation, and it was lost 4 yes, 7 no's. A motion was made that this board go on record in notifying the members of private duty section that the membership of this board does approve, please note, does approve a salary increase providing the private duty section establish levels of practice and salary scales accordingly. And this was carried. A motion was made that there be a called board meeting to consider the matter of salary increase for private duty when they wish to present their recommendation concerning levels of practice and salary scales accordingly. And then this came up again, this came out of June 3rd. I move that the board delay endorsement, a motion was made, and this is out of the call meeting June 3rd, that the board delay endorsement to the private duty section's request for $25 salary increase until such time as compliance is made to the board's previous request to establish levels of practice. 7 yes and 2 no's and 1 nay, 1 did not vote. So we have 2 board meetings, with exception of our one last call meeting, 1 call meeting and 1 board meeting to deal with this same motion. And I just really am not in a position to rule that this motion is in order.
I was just going to ask, Madam Chairman, if this motion isn't out of order.
Well, I felt that since we had received communication from A&A in 2 ways, one, commending them for their raise, and read that telegram again, please, and you will see that it does commend them.
Nothing's been done
for trying to come up to their...
Ms. Earps, it's implied that the board did not approve the raise.
They didn't.
The board approved the raise pending.
Making provisions so that we
Yes,
had to do
with
other things.
provisions.
But it takes a
So
long time
that
to
still
get
was
that
not
worked
a
out.
courtesy
And we
endorsement.
still got the raise, so wouldn't it be nice to have the approval of the board, and we're working on it in the meantime? It can't be done overnight. Even
Is there
A&A
further
can't do it.
discussion? And the motion is, I move that the executive board give the private duty section 5th district.
I think it's,
I rule it out of order, yes.
it's out of order.
Were there further recommendations from?
Well,
No,
when
I
will it,
just
may I ask you a question, when will it be in order to bring it back?
I would rule when the, provision is complied with.
It may take a year or two.
Well, we've taken 2 board meetings just about discussing the same motion.
At our
And
last
it's-
meeting,
Excuse me.
the members that were elected to the executive committee was first vice chairman, Mrs. Virginia Deal, secretary, Mrs. Juanita Brochant, member at large, Mrs. Elizabeth C. Eden.
Is there further report? Thank you, sir. Yes. Notation. We have, unfinished business. The community council, we've discussed that, and, I did not bring to this board, an item that should have come at our next meeting from the last, GSNA board, merely for information regarding, there was a recommendation that came out of the GSNA bylaws, for revision, that, the proposed 5th district be divided, and I'm reading from the, bylaw revision proposal, that the proposed 5th district be divided, leaving a new 5th district composed of Fulton and Clayton counties, that a new 16th district be composed of the counties of DeKalb, Rockdale, Newton, Gwinnett, and Henry, and that Gwinnett County be removed from the proposed new 11th district and placed in the new 16th district. I think that I need only to tell you that, from the earlier board meetings of which I did review with this board and did go to board meetings and say that, this district endorsed the previous proposals because, if the persons involved or the members within these, boundaries were willing to accept this. And this was, ruled out, in the GSNA, that boundaries of District Nurses Association shall be clearly defined and recorded by the executive board of this association. Boundaries may be changed by a 2/3 vote of the executive board, provided such change has been approved by each District Nurses Association involved. Now, this apparently, district did propose to the bylaws to establish some new boundary lines, and then the bylaws was coming back proposing some, alternate, boundary lines. So this was, not, but I did feel that the district, board should be aware that this did come.
Well, should not they come to the membership at the next meeting?
Yes, yes. Well, I would have to give some thought to that because the membership didn't take it to the,
I was gonna say, why did it go to the board before it went to the membership?
I would offhand say that only the board need to be informed because the membership has not been involved at all in the past. To my, well, they have not appeared.
We brought the membership one time.
But it was very definite.
This is with the 5 counties.
This is
Oh, then they did
entirely.
it over.
And the annual
Change
meeting
it.
last year, you approved that.
Yeah.
The 5 counties
then they
giving us
did it
one
over.
extra. That went to the state, didn't come to the district. We didn't know anything about it until 2 days before
This
the board
came
meeting.
from the state. Very good. Then we move to new business. is there new business for discussion? I would report that the tea, which Red Cross had for one of the to-be members of the district, Colonel Clark, who has been honored last week, August 28th, being Colonel Clark Week, proclaimed so by Governor Sanders. The tea was given by the Red Cross, and all of the board was invited, and members of GSNA, and there was a lovely tea honoring Colonel Clark, and she did state that she would be assigned at 3rd Army as Chief of Nursing Service for 3rd Army, and would be active in our organization, inquired as to membership and so forth. We sent Ms. Hammett our communications. We tried to share our communications, our materials. Both Carolyn and I got communications about Community Week. It's in October. So we both sent Ms. Hammett our copy, and I've forgotten the dates.
29th, I think.
Please forgive me, I did not.
You may not have it. We'll get that and announce to the membership. But Community Week is coming up, and someone has certainly entertained, and I jumped at the chance that maybe this would be a good week for us to talk positively about what's going on in the professional organization and play it up even more effectively than, or as much so as Nurse Week, as the case may be. I have one question to ask the board. We've talked about this, I believe, in our first board meeting since I have been president. We talked about having the financial reports mimeographed and given out at our annual meeting for the sake of time, and also out of consideration to Ms. Mays, and trying to present all of these figures so that this entire group, do we wish to do something about this before Thursday? Can we do something?
Do you want the budget, or do you want
expenditures, the reports that Ms. Mace has to strangers?
I already
tried to
have
share
a
with us.
stencil on the budget, and I also have a resume, if you mean right up to date, on how much we've spent for the last 8 months, if you'd like that.
But we should give an annual
Through
report.
July 31st, if you'd like to have that, it wouldn't take long to
What
fix
Ms.
it.
Mace gives, can we get her report?
Well, that's
that's
the
what
last
we want.
monthly report. Is that what you want?
We want
No,
what
she'll
she
give an
usually
annual
stands up
report.
against.
It's her annual treasurer's report.
Well, she
You
doesn't
mean the
give
budget-
that
the
until the
budget?
audits, as far as her complete annual report on that. She gives the last month.
Is the complete, say.
That's in January. So that's
true.
that's
So
not-
you'll give the month of July.
One she gave you
That's
today.
right.
Gave you the
That's
ones
right.
we
July.
gave today. Can you get those printed?
And the budget is approved just for this
And the
board.
budget.
That,
And then that would say, would it not?
And the budget you don't read anyway.
no, the budget is approved for the board.
People
And
read
again,
it. Some people read it and work on the road, back and
Very good.
I
Would
think-
this be,
I think it'd be a bad
uh,
business myself.
would this be in order
We're
then
going
that
by
we ask
budget.
Mrs.
You want the July report of the district and the budget. Is that right? For the district. And the registry, is that what you want on?
No, we don't want the
No,
registry.
You
not
don't,
the
you want the registry.
No,
You just want the district report circulated to the members.
All right.
right.
Do we have to make a motion?
Well, now, would that be, it doesn't make any difference to me, but what, do you want just the, 8 months, or? You see, when they get the get the audits report, they get this, as a whole.
All you would
That's in
give at our
January,
annual
see.
meeting would be the monthly report since we last met. You'll give the June, July, and August report, will you not?
I usually give the last one.
The
The last one, because that gives you what's in the bank.
So we need only to circulate that report,
Just the one.
yes.
Do we need a motion on that?
Do we have a motion on that?
Well, I can go ahead and fix them for you and have them available. We
It's
all,
a
we already
manner
have
of providing information for the
Then shouldn't it be
business.
in that motion?
It's not in conflict with any bylaws or rules on the.
Get
Consensus.
In fact, it's the motion made that he's put in the district meeting and all that.
We did, but we didn't, we don't know. We previously printed all the reports in the meter annually, so we would not have to take up so much time for them. But with the biographical skip, we have, try to have the pictures
Way
all
back,
up.
babe.
Do we have any other new business?
So be careful going home.
If there's no further business, we
I move that we adjourn.
I second.